Are we looking at a vanishing animal? Hi. A month ago, Darcy and I were trying to make a video about trout fishing at Detroit Lake and going over a few high points of the last year, what we'd done. Now you see, Darcy and I, the Darchris team, about all we do is kick around the hills and streams in Oregon and catch a few fish, chase deer once in a while, film some animals. It's a rough life, but somebody's got to do it. Anyway, we'd had a poor season this year deer hunting, and as we looked back on it, the frustration got the better of me. I got to thinking about what was happening to our deer herd, and I just started ranting and raving. And I thought I'd spend a little while today explaining exactly what I meant. I've lived in Oregon most of my life and began hunting for mule deer in 1958. I really enjoyed it and did it for several years. Oh, every once in a while I'd take a year off and chase blacktails around, but I've always enjoyed hunting mule deer. So now, after more than 60 years of deer hunting, I do consider myself experienced, but maybe not really an expert. I'd say I was tenacious. I get out there every day I can, and I grind it out until I get lucky and find the one I'm looking for. The dumb one. What can I say? That's basically the truth. But those times have kind of come to a close. Our mule deer are fast declining, and I can tell you why. But first, let me give you a little bit of background info on myself. I don't have a degree. I don't work for the government. What I enjoy doing is catching trout and salmon, filming wildlife, and hunting deer. I've spent hundreds of days in Oregon's outdoors, and it really saddens me to see what we've allowed to happen to our wildlife, especially mule deer. In the 1960s, mule deer numbered over 320,000 animals. Each year, hunters bagged 90 to 100,000 deer. Now, our deer count is close to 150,000, and we bag less than 15,000 a year. Predators eat at least 75,000, or half of our deer herd now. In 1994, Measure 18 outlawed hunting cougar and bear in Oregon with hounds. This was a mistake with far-reaching consequences. A few years later, as we entered the new century, the Darchris team was spending a lot of time around Steens Mountain enjoying filming the abundant wildlife of both the Malheur Wildlife Refuge and Steens Mountain itself. The mule deer population was phenomenal in the area, and we took a lot of footage of some very large bucks. But by 2010, their numbers dropped drastically. At that time, we camped at Page Springs and enjoyed the area from Crumble Reservoir to the headwaters of the Blitzen. One day during this trip, we made a scout through an area where we'd filmed 32 bucks in a single day back in 2002, and we did not see a buck. We did, however, see our first cougar that same day when he leaped across the patrol road close to Benson Pond. Now, I think it was about 2 years later that the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife authorized a cougar reduction of problem animals in the Steens Mountain Unit. And in 4 years, I believe 60 cougars were removed from the Steens by professional hunters using dogs, and it cost some $70,000. Each year that the reduction program was in use, mule deer numbers increased and hunter success rates climbed back up over 50%. Then the cougar reduction program ended, and almost immediately, numbers of mule deer went back down. No surprise there. The Darchris team has always liked to spend time in the Steens Mountain area, so earlier this year, we headed over and camped at the Page Springs campground and visited Crumble Reservoir at the base of Steens Mountain to do a little bit of trout fishing. It was the end of spring and the fish were biting. We caught dozens of nice big fish and enjoyed wildlife viewing wherever we went. We even got to see some of the wild horses that graze in the Steens Mountain area. And in the evening, we dined on freshly caught rainbow trout. But during the 4 days we camped, fished, and scouted in the area, we saw a total of only 3 mule deer bucks. That's just sad. And what's even sadder is that we all know the reason for it. Predators, mainly cougars. But coyotes have a part in it as well. They really love to eat fawns. Now, over the years, I've hunted in several different Eastern Oregon management units, including Steens Mountain, Ochiko, Chesnemnas, Wenaha, and so forth. But it wasn't until 2015 that I hunted in Northside for the first time. Now, I believe it was 2015. 75 years kind of screws with your memory a bit. Anyhow, yeah, 2015 was my first go at Northside. The first day, the very first day, I saw a total of 5 branch bucks in the Belshaw Meadows area. Wow! The Darchris team then scouted for 4 more days and saw a total of 8 bucks and plenty of does. I saw 4 more bucks during the legal season, but thanks to a missed shot on one, a hit limb on another, and then there were a couple of bucks I saw from the cab of my truck who were too close to the road to take legally. So I went home empty-handed that year, but still amazed by the deer I'd seen. Northside became my unit of choice. 2 years later, I got another tag and saw a total of 3 or 4 bucks, finally tagging an honest-to-goodness Boone and Crockett 4-point on day 8 of the season. A couple years later, and I got another tag. Saw 1 buck scouting and shot another 4-point on day 3 of the season. Wow. But I noticed there were also a lot less does around that year as well. 2 more years and I got another tag. 2021 was a lean year. Darchris got to the unit a week early for our usual look around, our scout trip, and we saw very few deer, either bucks or does, while scouting, and I finally found Spike on day 4 and was happy to take him. Then came 2023, this year, and I spent 6 days scouting and saw a total of 5 deer, all does, 1 animal at a time, no groups of does, no yearlings, and no fawns. I then hunted the entire season, 12 days total, and never saw a buck. There were very few deer hanging in the camps I passed, and when I talked with other hunters, I found the success rate was really low. I'd guess it was probably somewhere around 20%, but I don't know that for a fact. There were obviously less deer in the unit. I talked with 2 different ranchers near Fox, and they were adamant about the cause. Predators. One rancher had lost 14 head of cattle to wolves and filed for damages. The other said wolves were a problem and the number of coyotes had skyrocketed. But then he concluded by saying, listen to this, what's killing the deer is cougars, and that's the honest answer. The Game Commission claims it's habitat loss that's killing deer. Bullshit. It's cougars, and there's nobody doing anything about it. And that's the simple truth. The deer herd in the Northside Unit is being depleted by predators, particularly cougars, and the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife knows it. They just choose to do nothing about it. In 2014, I believe there were 1,225 tags issued for the general buck season in this unit, and hunters got a total of 400 bucks. 8 years later, in 2022, same unit, there were only 763 tags ordered, or issued that is, and hunters got 174 bucks, less than half what they did 8 years prior. So, with the deer numbers going down and the predator numbers going up, what did the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, I'm getting tired of saying that, let's just call them the OD boys. What did the OD boys do last year? Explain this to me. They issued 880 tags, more than 100 more than last year, with the numbers going down. What's the reason for that? Do they just need more money? If you ask OD what the problem is, they'll maintain what they've been using as a reason for many, many years now. Yep, they'll say it's due to declining habitat. Bullshit. The National Forest, State Forest, BLM, and O&C lands in Oregon are about the same size as they were 60 years ago when the deer numbered about 300,000 and more. 3 times the size what it is now nearly. So I know about 10 years ago, the OD boys made a study on how coyote populations were affecting mule deer fawn survival. And they went into the Hepner unit. And they went in full force. 933 coyotes they got. They used airplanes, helicopters, the cavalry for all I know, but they got 933 coyotes. And what they said was, well, we should have got more. If you're going to help deer fawn survival in any measurable amount, you need to kill at least half the coyotes in that unit. Well then, this year, 2023, the OD boys voted to make it illegal to have any kind of organized hunts for coyotes on public land. It's against the law. Why is that? Explain that to me. That's bullshit. Figure that out. But this year, 2023, OD made another study concerning mule deer management in Oregon and announced in late October that the falling numbers of mule deer was due in part to declining summer habitat, and they suggested managing deer not by hunt unit, but by range and migration tracts. What? We have less than half the deer we once did. If anything, the habitat is probably undergrazed or underbrowsed. So, how can an organization like the OD boys spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hours studying a problem like mule deer management in Oregon and still not come up with the answer? Well, let me read from a draft copy of the 2023 Mule Deer Management Plan that's going to be submitted now. And this will explain, I think, where a lot of the time and money goes. Now, listen to this. And this is from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, the OD boys. This is from their 2023 Mule Deer Management Program, a draft copy. The influence of predation on deer populations is complex, and the effects can vary widely depending upon a multitude of factors specific to that population. Predation rate can vary by carnivore species and behavior. Factors that can influence predation rate include preference for a specific sex and age classes, increased similarity and habitat use or overlap with prey, availability of alternative prey, and interspecific interactions between cougars and coyotes, and intraspecific interference, competition from other carnivores. Prey can also influence outcome of predation, where vulnerability to production can be influenced by behavioral choices in habitat selection, body size, nutritional content, social organization, and paturation of young rearing behaviors. Whew. What that says is cougars and coyotes will eat what they can get depending upon what's available. They'll eat a dog, a house cat, or a goose if that's what walks in front of them. It's no big mystery. Anyway, we'll go on. As W.F.C. Fields once said, "Aha! If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, then baffle them with bullshit." Drafting reports, analyzing data, referencing previous plans, suggesting possible solutions, and actually doing nothing. It's called government. And as we all suspect, if government ran Amazon, it would be bankrupt in a year. So how did we get to where we are today with falling game numbers? I think I can explain it. In the 1960s, we called it the Oregon Game Commission, and their job was to monitor big game herds and keep their numbers up. And this they did fairly well. Going on in somewhere in the 1980s or early 90s, their vision changed, and they went from being a department that cared for our game animals to the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And when they did that, they were in a period of growth. They wanted to get bigger, to be an empire. And in order to do that, they had to try to please everybody. Greenpeace or anybody that had some kind of gripe about any wildlife, the Game Commission was there saying, we're taking care of that. And what they were actually doing at this time was nothing. And our game animal numbers started plummeting. And our predator numbers were going up. At one time, Oregon had a deer population of 320,000 animals. Their MO, their management objective for Oregon is 320 or 330,000 animals, and that's what they want to see Oregon's deer herd grow to. But for the last 40 years, it has gone down to a point now of 150,000 animals, considerably less than half of what it was, and far below the management objectives. And the ODFW does nothing about it. It just, yep, it's falling. Oh, and it'll probably fall again next year. And that's no help. The problem is that even if the OD boys decided to take some action and actually do something to reduce the predator numbers, it'd still be 10 or 15 years before a noticeable difference was made in the deer herd. And that's just sad.
5 years ago, you drive around and see over 100 deer.
What do you think's causing the problem?
Cougar, wolves. It is. Cougar, wolves, coyotes.
It's just frustrating to know the answer and watch as our dollars are washed down the drain. You've hunted a long time and hunted up here predators. Cats, wolves. Is that hurting the deer up here? I mean, do you see evidence of predator damage to the herds? The numbers seem to me to be down this year.
When we first started seeing signs of wolf up here, yes. Because I was finding whole elk kills, 16 of them that year.
Wow.
And they were denying it, saying they weren't here. But I had seen them that year and I heard them. But I was finding these all around our camp, 16 different, where the whole thing was eaten right there. The legs weren't pulled off like coyotes do.
There are more cougars in Oregon than California. There's 3 times as many cougars in Oregon as Washington or Idaho. We're overrun with cats. And what does the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife do about it? Well, each year they issue 900 tags for cougar removal, hunting tags. And out of that, hunters maybe take 200 animals. Professional hunters with dogs remove another 150 animals, I suppose. So altogether, that's about 350 cougars are taken out of the population each year. A population that's expanding by 800 to 1,000 animals a year. It's not going to work at this rate. We have to get serious about it. What would I like to see done? I'd like to see cougars declassified as game animals and be allowed to be harvested on site without a tag like coyotes are. I'd like to see 3,000 cougars be declared problem animals and then eliminated by professional hunters with dogs. I'd like to see a bounty on coyotes restored. I'd like to see the wolf population capped where it is now and then maintained with controlled hunt tags if necessary, or possibly even as Idaho has done by imposing a bounty on wolves. We need to stop the growth of predators. Do I believe any of this will happen? No. It's easier to do nothing. But like we've all learned in life, ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. Well, that's it. That's all I've got to say. But I'll sum up for now by saying I'm pissed. And if you are an Oregon deer hunter, you should be pissed too. Whoa, wait a minute here. I gotta try to sell you a book, and you got a choice out of 3 of them. The first one, A Distinguished Life, is about Ralph Higbee. He was killed at the Battle of the Bulge a year before I was born. His story lay untold for 80 years until I finally put it together out of a bunch of letters he had. Letters home. Young man, 19 years old. Very interesting. Anyway, that's one book. Got another one about another soldier. Me. I had to leave high school at the tender age of 17, went in the Army, and had the wonderful fortune of being sent over to Asia for a year. Twice. Interesting book. It's got some foul language, but you're in the Army. Anyway, I think you'll really enjoy that. And here's an old one. After my first wife threw me out of the house, I wrote this about spending a year wandering around the state of Oregon, meeting people and having adventures. It's humorous, well received, it's a good book. Anyway, that's this one. And it is okay, now that I think about it. Go to Amazon and they'll show you how to, you can buy the book or you can read it online. And if you're an Amazon Prime, you can read it online for nothing. That's what I do. Go back to this one. My mortar board was olive drab. That's right, I graduated from the Army. Also, Amazon, online, read it for nothing. I'm doing a bum-up job here of making these commercials, huh? I'm not much experienced at that. Okay. And then here's Mr. Higbee's story. Also, you can get it from Amazon. And I don't think it's online yet, but it'll be online in a week or so. You can buy it, but or you can wait a week and order it that way. But it's a good book, good story. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you down the road somewhere. Watch us then. Bye. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, wait a minute. I just told you that this was going to be online in about a week. And I was just told by a female member of the Darchris team that it's not going to be online because it has too darn many pictures in it. And it doesn't work to do that kind of a thing. So this one you just got to buy. So if you got a whole lot of money laying around that you don't know what to do with, it's a good story. Anyhow, take it easy. And I'll see you with the missus down the road. Bye.